This is the Asia Hollywood Greenlight podcast, episode number 48.
And rolling sound, quiet.
Here we go. Ready.
Speeding. 120, take 7.
And action.
This is Caryn McCann, the host of the Asia Hollywood Greenlight podcast, a podcast about creating and distributing content for both Hollywood and Asia. To show your support, please subscribe, leave a rating so more people can discover this podcast. The more we grow the community, the more we can collaborate. Any links mentioned in the podcast can be found in the show notes at the Asia list, where Hollywood and Asia meet. Just go to https://chnlist.com and go to the podcast blog page and look for this episode, which is number 48. Before I introduce today's guest, I'd like to start out with a motivational quote to encourage our listeners to continue on their path to achieving their own green light. And today's quote is from author J.K. Rowling, who said, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." A quick update on what I'm working on. I'm currently working on a new TV movie script, and I just finished the outline. I'll have the treatment done early this week, and we'll begin writing the script next week. I also shortlisted some directors for 2 other projects, so I hope to have good news soon. And now, here is the main segment. Today's guest is Elizabeth Turner Fox. She is an American film and television producer, is the founder and CEO of Turner Fox Productions, which specializes in co-productions between Asian and Western companies. She lived, studied, and worked in China for more than 10 years and co-produced Expedition China, The Search for Shangri-La, an award-winning 13-episode U.S.-China television travel series, which broadcast on National Geographic International and recently on Discovery Asia. The Panda episode won a Golden Panda at the Sichuan International Television and Film Festival. She focuses on projects with a focus on bridging East and West with global appeal. She and her producing partner, Asif Bashir, are currently producing a slate of projects which transcend cultural boundaries. Well, Elizabeth, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, I've told the audience a little bit about you, but why don't you take a minute and tell us about yourself personally and your business?
Sure. Well, similar to you, I lived in China for a long time. I had gone to school there, or to university. And when in Beijing, and when I graduated, I ended up staying on and initially worked in public relations. So I had a little bit of a media background. And then as a result of studying and living and working there for so long, I had worked consulting, helping U.S. companies with market entry strategies for a number of years. And after doing that for a long time, I thought to myself, every time I landed in China or I would land back in the US, I thought, it's amazing to me that this one ocean, these 2 cultures are just so different. What can I do to try to bridge these cultures with my background? And so that's sort of what led me into television and film, because entertainment is a really strong platform for doing that. And that led into my producing the China travel series. Okay. And then recently have begun focusing a little bit, have broadened out of just U.S.-China co-productions to Asian productions.
Oh, good. Well, you sort of answered my first question, but let me just do a little bit of a deeper dive. My first question is, why did you want to expand in the Asian market? You obviously, have the China focus, and now you're expanding out. Now, you started early. You started with the university over in China, and was that one of the reasons you stayed on, because you invested so much in the language and then you saw the growth?
Yeah. I mean, I was in China in early years, and obviously because just like any study abroad program, I mean, if you go to France or whatnot, because I was there, and then, ended up graduating and I loved it. I just stayed. I never imagined I was going to stay that so long. I stayed 10 years, wow. But I stayed. And then we had been producing a film, which we were coordinating with China Film Group, and this was right before COVID. Right. And so once that hit, nothing really happened. Right. And I think that's happened to everybody. But at this
Sorry, go ahead.
Same time, things, U.S. China co-productions really started to slow down too. And so I started looking at, the region and met my partner, Asif, who had a script, which is called The Fortune Cookie. Mm-hmm. And it's about 3 years ago. And so we began developing and producing that together. And the story takes place in Singapore, but we'll film in Malaysia because Malaysia has a 30% tax rebate, similar to Crazy Rich Asians.
Right. Well, that explains why you wanted to expand beyond China in the Asian market. The COVID thing, the Chinese co-production is slowing down. You have the script, this partner, it's going to be shot in Singapore. You've got the Malaysian or Southeast Asian tax rebates. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it was a kind of a natural, it's not like I had a grand plan. It just sort of organically happened.
Yeah. So just so the audience understands kind of what you do, can you describe 2 or 3 main tasks you do on a, quote, typical day?
A lot of Zoom calls.
Okay. Yay. Thank God for Zoom.
And a lot of calls, with my partner and with our partners in Malaysia. Okay. And trying to coordinate the production schedule on that side. And we were able to work with a company to pre-finance our tax rebate.
Oh, nice.
And obviously there's different territories that, offer different programs, but that really helped give us, our kickstart. And then on this side, we've been coordinating schedules and negotiating with talent. So it's mostly around that. And then also calls and meetings with a sales agent that we're working with.
Wow. And so
that's kind of my day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what a producer has to do. How did you?
So in the morning it's LA. Sorry, go ahead.
In the morning it's LA, and where else?
And then midday it's the UK, and in the evening it's Malaysia.
Yeah, believe me, I understand. I have several guests from Asia, so those are always night calls.
Exactly.
Now you mentioned your partner Asif. How do you find business partners, and how do you suggest the listeners perhaps find a producer who is interested in content with Asian elements?
So I met Asif a number of years ago at Hong Kong Film Art.
Oh, okay.
And we just instantaneously really connected. He's very creative, and then he shared a couple of his scripts with me, and all of them really transcend cultural boundaries, which is something I connect with after living abroad for so long. Right. And so we communicated, after the conference, we communicated back and forth. And we became, originally we were just focused on Fortune Cookie, but he had a few other projects too. And we just ended up becoming very good friends and producing partners together. Wow, but I really recommend going, attending AFM or Hong Kong Film Art and connecting with writers and other producers.
And then so that would be, even online, that is still a good option.
Yeah, I think so. It's so interesting. I've attended everything the past couple of years with COVID, from Hong Kong Film Art to AFM to Cannes, and all virtually. And I think that it was very efficient. Some were better than others, but I thought AFM, for example, their platform was phenomenal.
Yes.
And you could, I thought the panels were very informative. And then the networking, when you could click, that little virtual room, you could click on a floor and a table and read people's profiles and then follow up with them afterwards. So yeah, I didn't find it a problem.
Right. I hope more film markets will adopt that AFM model, if I do say so myself.
I completely
that
agree.
networking model was so helpful. And Filmart didn't have it.
It was a little clunkier.
Yeah. Well, hopefully next year.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll do it in person next year. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
A small world story about that. Somebody that we're working with on the fortune cookie, our Malaysian team, somebody that's on our team used to run FINAS, which is the government agency responsible for the Malaysian tax rebate. So he went with the Malaysian government delegation. And then somebody that we're working with in LA went, and it turned out, because we mailed them fortune cookies. We actually made fortune cookies, for real physical cookies.
Perfect.
With our contact, and we wrote the fortunes, but on the back is Asif and my contact information. So we mailed her fortune cookies, and so we had to send them to this hotel room. Well, it turned out we knew, or Asif knew, her partner and had met him at Hong Kong Film Art like 5 years ago. So small world.
Wow, that is a small world. So let's talk about something that maybe is a little more challenging. What obstacle did you encounter on a past project? How did you overcome it, and what did you learn?
Or
it could be a current project.
Yeah, I would say, I think it's something probably every producer faces, is this chicken or an egg scenario of raising initial funding for a project,
right,
so that you can attach the talent. And then, the talent will say, show me the money, right? So you're almost chasing your tail. Something that's worked with us is we've been able to get the script directly to some of the talent that we wanted, and they responded positively. And then also pre-financing the tax rebate, getting that initial funding, because it showed we had made progress. That helped us along too.
Were some of the stars that you sent the script to directly, were they American, Malaysian, mixture of both?
Different. One's American, one is Malaysian.
Okay, well that's a feather in your cap to get a big name, to get a name, and not to have strings attached, not to have a check attached. That's good for you.
Well, sometimes I think it's, as you know, I think in Asia everything is, well, probably it's the industry too, but it's all relationship, right?
That's
and
true.
If you've
That's
spent
true.
Asif has spent years working with Malaysia, and so knew all of these people. And that really helped us, because otherwise, great. As you know, going into another country, if you don't have experience there and trying to produce is more challenging. But it was really because of Asif.
And so the way you overcame that problem for raising initial financing was perhaps find a country that has tax rebates, or a state that has tax rebates, and then B, find actors that are open to not a pay or play deal, just want to read the script kind of thing.
Yes, and show interest, and you can even then get a letter of interest from them. You have to take baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. So if you could magically solve two current problems, and I know one of those, maybe there's two besides the financing issue, what would they be?
Two current problems?
They could be small problem, minor or macro. It could be like on a particular project, or they could be a problem within the whole industry.
Well, I still think the major problem is that initial development funding. I think every film project is a startup.
Exactly.
I mean, it's sort of a crazy industry, right? You make one film and you finish, And after that, when you want to do your next project, you're out with your begging bowl again, starting all over again. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I wish I had a solution for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess, but I when I was doing a lot of work with China, I won't mention names, but some major producers and directors I worked with asked me to help them raise money out of China. I mean, their films probably brought in $1 billion at the box office, and I thought, wow, if they're coming to me, right? They're having a problem raising money. Like, what chance do I have?
Well, the way to answer that is, you're not constrained by censorship. You
Right.
can, you obviously you can, do scripts that reach a different audience. But now, was there a second problem besides the raising development funding?
I think the other thing is trying to, with the talent, getting everybody you want and getting the schedules to meet. I mean, it's a jigsaw puzzle.
Exactly.
And I don't have a solution. I have a lot of problems. I obviously don't have a lot of solutions.
Sometimes it's just charge right ahead. That's
it is. It very
solution.
much so. You got to keep, just pushing forward.
Exactly. So what sort of future projects are you looking for? And a follow-up question to that is, what do you think the, let's say, Asian production companies are looking for?
Well, what we've noticed in working with sales agents and in different territories, first of all, interesting, because the fortune cookie is basically Hitch meets Crazy Rich Asians, sort of a global Crazy Rich Asians. And in different territories now, I'm sure everybody has seen this, a lot of the distributors or buyers have been looking for local content. And yet, with the fortune cookie, everybody's responded very positively to it, even if it's a Malaysian distribution company or a Filipino distribution company, or the person that we're working with in the US, the sales agent, when we told her about it, she said, oh my gosh, I love romantic comedies. It's one of my favorite genres. And it's really hard, to find them or a good one. And she said, and there's a market, for them. And so we feel that the film will sell well internationally, not just specific to one market. And I don't know, we had hoped that, but we weren't sure, right? You don't know until you try. Did I answer your question? I even forget the question.
Well, it was, what do you think the Asian studios or producers are looking for?
I'll give you a quote from a company from the Philippines. And when I met with him on Zoom, I wasn't in the Philippines,
right.
He said, and I introduced the fortune cookie, he said, this is exactly the type of project we are looking for.
Wow.
Because it promotes Asian talent overseas.
Yes, right.
And so I thought that was very interesting. And they loved it, just absolutely loved it.
Now, when you say local content, these sales agents are looking for local content. To me, that would mean local language.
Well, yeah, sort of. So in Malaysia, there's a couple of companies, and they're producing all Malaysian content, and that's what they sell in Malaysia. That is their bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
But now with the streamers,
right,
they're looking for content from these different markets, Thailand or, France or Norway, that will also do well internationally. So think of Parasite, for example. And but from our experience with the fortune cookie, though the Filipino film company and the Malaysian film company really liked it because it's a majority Asian talent with one Hollywood A-lister, but they liked that it was global, represented Asia and represented Asian talent, and also because of the social issue. I know this is a little bit politically sensitive around Asian hate, and they felt like our story addressed it in a very soft and organic way. So I think that's also why they connected with it.
Right. Well, that's a great angle.
It wasn't an angle; it just happened to be. This was before, because Asif wrote this script about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And but obviously, we all had 2 years of lockdown.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. So if there's writers out there, what Asian producers are hoping is to, same thing with China, is to export their culture abroad.
Yes, exactly.
That kind of is, if you can help that, and yet make it globally appealing. That's the fine line you have to walk.
Yes, definitely.
Because you're also
it's a fine line.
Yeah, trying to appeal to a foreign audience, a Western audience, and then also the local market. So if you found that script, wow, that's great. So as Asif, he's a producer. He's also writing these scripts.
Yes, he's a
perfect.
Creator, writer, producer.
That's perfect. Okay, so here is a trick question. What question did I not ask you that I should have?
I can't think of one.
Well, here's a question. What if you're, let's say if you were to give advice to someone who wants to go to Film Art, let's say it's online or something, and Film Art doesn't have those networking tables, how would you connect with someone?
I would, way in advance, start emailing people. Look at who's attending. Different conferences have a different program, but I think it was Hong Kong Film Art. We got the list of everybody attending, and so we went through it and targeted who we would like to meet with, because people are busy, right? You're meeting so many people during those things. And so we emailed, and then if they weren't able to connect during the event, we arranged a Zoom call the week after.
Okay.
And I think you just accomplish a lot more. It's a lot more efficient.
Exactly. And is that when you're sending those emails, are you mostly targeting producers?
For us, we were targeting sales agents.
Oh, sales agents. Okay.
And also co-production partners, investors, finance companies, because we were trying to raise money. But if you were a writer, I would definitely be trying to connect with the producers.
Exactly.
that are looking for content. It's funny because when I attended Hong Kong Film Art, when I met Asif, he had messaged me on that platform, which was very clunky.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he said, we were trying to connect on it. It wasn't working. He said, listen, I'll follow up with you, next week. So
smart.
We had a Zoom call after that.
Well, that was smart. Very smart. Now, if you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Find a project which is already packaged. Already
packaged. Okay, that means someone has to come to you with a packaged project.
Correct. It's at least with the director attached, it is much easier to raise funding. And to get the other talent attached, because they want to know who the director is. Right.
Well, that's usually a deal breaker for some talent. If there's no director attached, there's no director attached. And then the other side of that is that if you are going for those Malaysian tax rebates or any of these Asian tax rebates, would you say you're better off to go for a local director, for example, a Malaysian director, or is that not something
if that's a difficult question, I would say it really depends on the project. What's the story, and who's the audience, and is it like our project or our film, a international film? Even though we're, Crazy Rich Asians, the story took place in Singapore, but they filmed in Malaysia because of that tax rebate.
Right.
And it's much less expensive to film there.
Exactly.
It really stays on your budget. And then, so for us, it's interesting. We had a director that we really wanted, who is Asian, but he was too busy. And then we also looked at a British director who's just had a lot of international experience or cross-cultural experience. Mm-hmm. So that was how we decided. But I think it really depends on the project. But the tax rebate, as long as you film in Malaysia, and this is true of most of the location tax rebates, you'll qualify for those funds. And FINAS, which is the organization, is pretty good about paying on that qualified spend. And you could film in Georgia, the state of Georgia. They also have a 30% tax rebate. Malta is even better. They have it's a cash rebate, not a tax rebate, and that's 40%. So when you begin production, I think on the first, they'll start paying you day one up to 10%, and then as you go along, I'm not as experienced in Malaysia. In Malta, I shouldn't say that. Mm. But and in fact, there's a guy that connected with me at American Film Art, a writer and an actor who has a script that he's been trying to raise money for, and he really wants to film in LA. And I recommended to him that he look at Georgia because he'll get that tax rebate, and that then really helps you with investors, right? Because it's free money. It's you're lowering your production cost.
Yes, exactly. Good point. Now, in conclusion, would you like to share any social media details or website links?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. And it was really good to speak with you again.
Exactly. And we'll see you at the premiere.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Take care. And now for my key points. Today I have 5. Number 1, financing your film. Look into film tax credit financing. What are film tax credits? A film tax credit is a type of incentive offered by some governments to offset the cost of production for films. According to Filmmaking Lifestyle, the credits are generally given in exchange for employing domestic workers and usually local resources, which can be an effective way to encourage regional economic development. Number 2, show me the money. For a great guide on various tax credits, check out Studio Binder's article, Film Tax Credits, How to Save Money. They go into detail about the amount of state incentives you can get. They also break down the various kinds of tax credits, which include movie production incentives, film tax credits, cash rebates, grants, sales tax exemptions, lodging exemptions, and fee-free locations. You should also check out Entertainment Partners' website, which gives current information on U.S. and foreign tax incentives. Entertainment Partners is a consulting group which gives advice on production finance, production incentives, and a lot more. You can check the link out to their website in the show notes. Number 3, connecting with producers. When you try to get meetings at upcoming film markets, most sales agents and producers will tell you they are too busy, or for the sales reps, they're only focusing on sales. As Elizabeth points out, her most successful meetings were ones she arranged for 1 week after the market. This is key. Don't offer to meet someone in the future. Nail down the week after the market so you get in your target's calendar close to the market. In your first email or call to your target, Ask for a meeting during or 1 week after the market. As the saying goes, the money is in the follow-up. Number 4, what sells in Asia? As Elizabeth mentioned, many of the Asian buyers she talks to are very keen on content that promotes Asian talent overseas. There are endless local films that don't travel outside their borders, but you could be in the driver's seat if your script promotes Asian talent and can attract a wide audience. Asian buyers are looking and are eager to find these projects. Make sure yours gets on their radar. Number 5, what I really want to do is direct. Elizabeth suggests that you get a director on board. It's much harder to raise financing, attract sales agents and actors if there's no director attached. And even an LOI, a letter of interest from a director, is enough to attract other partners. Well, that's the show. To show your support, please subscribe, leave a rating, or share this podcast on social media. And producers, directors, and talent reps, remember that your membership to the Asia list is free. Find the next great script or writer before your competition does. You can also post tailored calls for submissions on our private writing jobs page. Writers also get your script in front of industry pros. Just sign up at https://chnlist.com. I appreciate your support. Please help us out by rating the show and sharing it on your social channels. That's the show. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you at the premiere. Bye.